She was born into a world that did not expect her to be remembered, but she carried something inside her that refused to disappear, a quiet strength that grew in silence and became louder with every step she took through hardship, through rejection, through fear, and through the long roads that history forgot to write properly. This is the story of women who were never meant to be heroes in the eyes of the world, but became heroes through action, through courage, through endurance, through moments when giving up would have been easier, but they chose to continue anyway. Long before machines, long before recognition, long before applause, there was a woman who carried mail across dangerous land where storms swallowed paths and strangers carried threats in their eyes. She rode through freezing winds, through endless dust, through nights where even hope felt distant. She was strong, not because life was easy, but because life demanded strength every single day, and she answered it without hesitation. Her name was remembered in whispers. More than in books, she was known for her fearless rides through the wilderness, delivering messages that connected people. Separated by distance and danger, she did not wait for permission. She did not wait for comfort. She simply moved forward because responsibility became her purpose, and fear had no place where duty stood. And far away from those open lands, another woman was solving problems that the world could not yet understand. She looked at numbers like they were pathways into the sky. She saw patterns where others saw confusion. She worked in rooms where her presence was questioned before her mind was respected, but she did not stop thinking. She did not stop calculating. She did not stop believing that her mind had value, even when the world refused to see it. She carried the weight of invisible expectation. Every calculation she made carried the dreams of astronauts who would one day leave the Earth and return safely because her mind had mapped their journey. She worked quietly while history moved loudly around her, but without her silent precision, those journeys would never have reached the stars. And in another time, another woman was born into a life where freedom was not given. It had to be claimed step by step, breath by breath, risk by risk. She escaped from chains that were not only physical, but also emotional and generational. But escape was not the end of her story. It was the beginning of a mission that would define her entire life. She returned again and again into danger, not for glory, not for reward, but because she could not accept a world where others remained trapped. She became a guide through darkness, leading others toward a place they had only heard of in dreams. Freedom was not an idea for her, it was a responsibility, and she carried it like a flame in her hands even when the wind tried to extinguish it. There was also a woman who looked at the sky and refused to believe that it belonged only to men. She faced rejection at every step. She was told she could not fly. She was told she could not learn. She was told she could not belong, but she did not listen to limits created by others. She traveled far from her homeland to learn the language of flight. She studied, she trained, she fell, and she rose again until the sky itself became her classroom. When she finally flew, she did not fly alone. She carried every woman who was ever told she could not. She carried every dream that was ever dismissed. She carried the silent weight of possibility and turned it into motion through the air, proving that the sky was never meant to belong to only one kind of person. And in another era, a woman stepped into space itself, leaving behind the Earth that once questioned her place. She entered a world of silence and infinite distance, where gravity no longer defined movement, where humanity looked fragile against the vastness of the universe. She became a symbol of what happens when determination is stronger than doubt, when preparation meets opportunity, when courage refuses to be quiet. But behind every achievement, there were moments no one saw, nights of doubt, mornings of pressure, days where she had to prove herself again and again, not because she was unqualified, but because she was different, and difference in that world was often treated like doubt instead of strength. These women lived in different times, faced different challenges, walked different paths, but they were connected by something deeper than history. They were connected by persistence, by resilience, by the refusal to accept that their story would end where society tried to stop them. There were days when the road ahead looked impossible, when storms blocked the path, when systems refused entry, when voices around them said no, when doors closed without explanation, when society looked at them and saw limitation instead of potential. But in those moments, something inside them chose to continue, not because they were fearless, but because they moved forward even while afraid, not because they were untouched by pain, but because pain did not decide their direction, not because they were stronger than the world, but because they refused to stop growing inside it. The woman who carried mail through dangerous lands became a symbol of endurance, proving that responsibility can become legacy. The woman who calculated journeys to space proved that intelligence has no gender or boundary. The woman who escaped and returned for others proved that freedom is powerful only when shared. The woman who learned to fly proved that borders are temporary when vision is permanent. The woman who reached space proved that humanity expands when courage steps forward. And yet what makes their stories truly powerful is not only what they achieved, but what they overcame: invisibility, doubt, rejection, isolation, fear, and the quiet struggle of being underestimated. They did not wait for the world to change. Before they acted, they became the reason the world had to change. And in every generation after them, their echoes remain in classrooms, in laboratories, in skies, in missions, in every place where a woman stands and wonders if she belongs. The answer is already written in their stories. She belongs because they once stood in the same doubt and continued anyway. History often remembers events but forgets the weight. Behind them, it remembers achievements but forgets the cost. It remembers names but forgets the silence before success. These women remind us that behind every moment of progress there are lives that carried invisible battles and won them without applause. Their courage was not loud, it was consistent. It was daily. It was patient. It was the kind of courage that does not end in a single victory but continues to inspire long after the moment has passed. And if you listen closely to their stories, not as distant legends but as human journeys, you will hear the same message repeating again and again. Keep going even when no one sees. You keep building even when no one believes. You keep moving even when the path is unclear, because sometimes the greatest revolutions are not started with noise but with quiet persistence. These unsung heroines were not waiting to be written into history. They were busy shaping it, and today, every time a door opens for someone who was once excluded, every time a dream survives rejection, every time a woman steps into a space that once denied her presence, their legacy continues quietly, powerfully, endlessly.